and welcome to the Wake.Show. Good morning. I am Chris Fisher, and I'm so glad you could be here. I did not find a nurse to come in today to shoot me up, so that is not on the menu. Joey, where'd you go, Bubba? Come back over here. Come back over here. There you go. There you go. Places, places, everyone. Places, places. Hi, Bubby. Hi, Bubby. All right, so we have to start off with some, and there's a microphone there for a reason, is because, you never know when Joey needs to, has something to say. But I will say that I'm kind of set. What the hell? There we go. I will say that I'm a little on the sad side because it's only Joey and not Roxy McPoopenstein today, and that's just too bad. But here's what happened. Actually, let me do this because there's no reason for me not to be able to play the video for you. I record a little bit of some of this morning. I don't want to exploit. It's my dog. What am I doing? It's not like it's my human children that I'm exploiting. How dare you? Do I have airdrop in this old Mac here? Airdrop. I want to airdrop. So I'm going to because here's the thing. I was getting the dogs ready to come in. Never mind. All right, so I'll just do it like this. I'm sorry for this. So right here, as you can see, Roxy's sitting in the back of the couch there, right? Roxy, you want to go for a ride? You want to go to work with Daddy? Come on, let's go for a ride. Now, a couple months ago, if we do this, no, that means back here. All right, I'm sorry. Now 3 months ago, 4 months ago, that if you said, hey, do you want to go for a ride? Like a lot of you who have dogs, you know exactly what's going to happen. They start getting excited and ready to go. Well, when Lauren and I were getting at that time period of buying a house, breaking down the old apartment, moving into the new place, it seemed like every time we got her in the car, her anxiety would be a little higher and a little higher. And then when we go for long rides to take her to her in-laws, I mean the grandparents. Sorry. Hi, Jojo. How you doing, buddy? I'm good, Dad. He would, sorry. So, where was I? We got some people walking up the stairs. Sorry about that. So anyway, when we go for the longer rides up to Pasco, it'd be an hour long, she started to have panic attacks. Oh, that's awesome. He's in now?
Yeah, Vinny's now, but he's promoted out to his whole audience that his will start
at noon. Okay, I see.
So I'm thinking, he's an interesting dude. Just hang out.
Yeah, go ahead and take a seat there. We'll just sit there and chat it up. I'll bring you in right now. Go ahead if you'd like then, and re-aim, I guess, that one there.
And we need to pull an XLR for that for masteries.
Yes. Yeah, and sorry about that. Cords, go ahead. I don't know if you want to grab that mic real quick. No. Go ahead and sit down, Vinny. Go ahead and sit down.
Sure.
This is it,
I've got a couple calls.
Oh, you got a couple calls you got to be on here? So...
Let me grab the XLR cable. I'll get this all set up for masteries.
All right. Thank you very much. And then I want to get the, while we're doing that, let's see here. I want to get a, wait, hold on. We'll do this shot. There you go. Enjoy my desktop while I get, the cameras situated around here. Here, and I'll go ahead and turn you up there, Vinny.
All right.
How you doing, Vinny?
Good.
Good. Let's see. Let's do this. That should get it done for today.
All right.
Good. We'll dial down some of the intensity over here.
Yeah, that's a little bright.
We'll dial down some of the intensity.
Showbiz.
There we go. Something like that.
Oh, wow.
You enjoying my desktop? You seen what programs I have? I'm running. Oh, we got that shot over there. Oh, yeah.
Look good?
Yeah, that looks great, actually, if you want to continue with that one there. Oh, that looks amazing. And then we'll go ahead and put this one on the couch then. Yeah. Wow, that looks really good today.
It must have focused well. All right.
It focused well. I don't know if it's the light, if the light's hitting it just the right way too, but it looks, maybe it's you, Vinny.
I got good sleep last night.
I think it's you. It's probably what's going on around here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome into the studio. Let's see here.
Vinny's available to hang out, just hang with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
All right, so let me finish up my story about. So you'll.
I'm going to share this. If you, I'm going to share some stuff out right now.
All right,
while you're taking care of that.
You do that. You do that. And we'll bring in Vinny here in just a couple of minutes. So, my long story longer. I was getting, we brought it. I was looking forward to bringing in my dogs every single day. To work now. Now that things have got ratcheted up around here, there's a lot more work to do, and I don't like you know how it is. I mean, no, some of you, I guess you don't. Some of you can leave your dogs at home all day long, and it doesn't matter to you at all. But for me, it does, and long story longer still. So I brought them in yesterday, and Roxy had a time in the she was. Panting really, having a little anxiety situation. But this morning, when as I showed you in the video there, when I went to get them strapped up to come in, she would not move. And then when I went over, I was going to get her, and then she just started shaking, just shivering, shaking, and I sat there, and so here was my dilemma today. Because when I first got her, she was 6 years old. I took her to the park, and she sat there and screamed. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't a yell. She had sat in some weird position and just screamed. That's when I realized that she had never been acclimated to dogs whatsoever. So she was very, very insecure, right? She did not like going to the park in the beginning. But I kept taking her over and over and over and over and over again every single day for about 4.5 months, minus a day or two here and there. But really, I'm not exaggerating when it was pretty much every single day for 4.5 months. And when I got there, I wouldn't coddle her. Like when the dogs would come up and she'd be terrified, your instinct, of course, is to get down there, pick her up, and go, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and then try to get them back down there. But the best thing to do in those situations is to leave them in that moment so that it calms down and this and this and this. And I know it's very hard to do because some of you see that and it's already escalated. It looks like these dogs are hurting your dog or attacking your dog or whatever. I just saw it differently, and I was right with Roxy anyway. And every couple of weeks you would see her become a little bit more social. She'd get over some of the stuff she was doing. So now let's fast forward a few years, 5 years, and she's come a long way. She still is a little bit on the independent side, when we're going to the park, she's like, she's cool with everybody as long as the energy doesn't get too high. As long as everybody's just cool and just doing their own thing. But if dogs start running around, she starts freaking out. But anyway, so that was my dilemma this morning. Do I do the same thing and go, all right, well, I think if I bring her in every single day, 5 days a week, that she will eventually get over this too. And I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't feel comfortable with it. And mainly because the car ride is a minimum 30 minutes, depending on what time I leave the house. It'd be 30 minutes, 45 minutes before I get here. And that's just a lot. She's not going to calm down. She's not going to sit there and calm down in the car. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and escalate till it's near a panic attack or a panic attack. And you're like, come on, fish, settle down. Dogs don't have panic attacks. No, I'll show you a video. Again, I don't have it loaded. I need to get a little cable for my phone because it is almost impossible for me. Like it's a fundamental law of nature I'm trying to break, to try to get a photo or video from my phone to some place where I can play it for you guys. All you got to do is hit AirDrop, which it didn't work this morning. All I got to do is plug in a cable, which I don't do. And it would make things a hell of a lot easier for me. But for some reason, I'm just too stupid and procrastinate too much. So I didn't feel like the approach that I took when I first introduced her to the parks, when I first got her, was going to work because she would have to endure 30 minutes every single day of anxiety, to then get here, and she was trembling, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger. So the best I could do, Joey, are you trembling now too, buddy? Am I getting a little too worked up? Well, let's do this because I want to bring in Vinny here in 1 second, but I also want to make sure that Joey has his right cam. So this is going to be the Joey cam. Right now it's the hold on. Right now it's the Vinny cam, but it's about to be the Joey cam. Here we go. There. Looking good, Joseph. Looking good, buddy. Are you ready, Vinny?
I am ready.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the studio now my first guest today, Vinny, who is, Vinny, who is an author. Well, you tell me about yourself. Are you an author by trade or?
My professional background for most of my career was marketing and communications.
Okay.
In the last 6 years, I've gone into economics, and in putting myself out there, I've written 2 books. So author was not the plan. That was the path forward with the idea.
At night it was either relax, watch a television show, or just start typing away and see if I could just write something. All right. Well, you start. Well, what's your association with Chords, or is it Jonny Torres? How did we get to know you?
Actually, kind of through both. I met Jonny through his political activities over probably starting mid 2000s, 2005, 6, somewhere around then. And then Chords, his wife Haley, was involved with Add to Tampa Bay, which is a young professional group of advertising professionals. And then she was working at the Crisis Center for a while. And so through that network is how I met Chords. And then, like I said, I've known Jonny over the years as well. So, and I think you actually emceed one of the Addy Awards once.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Is it an event where there was a lot of drinks?
Probably.
Okay, yeah. There's a good chance I did, and I don't remember.
Advertising. But anyway, so it's good to be on the show.
Well, thank you so much. You started just watching like a week ago. Now, we're not going to get into the in-depth stuff because you have your following, your fans that you have promoted and said, I'll be on at noon today, because technically you were going to come in as a guest at noon. But I'm still trying to get a handle on this show and all the things that go on the show. And one of the things I'm not good at, one of the many things I'm not good at, is organizational stuff. So I've double booked today. I have 2 guests coming in, and one of you weren't on the schedule at all, though we've been talking about you almost every single day for the past week or so.
Thank you.
I didn't. Right.
Appreciate that.
Seriously, and I've been plugging you almost every day for the last week, and I still look down and go, okay, well, I don't have you on the calendar. I don't have anybody in the calendar, so let me go ahead and book, Matt to come in today. Yeah. So Matt from Masteries, he's the owner of Masteries, and the Mastery. Or how long have you been in this area?
I've been in the area 26 years.
Okay, so do you in the Hillsborough side or St. Pete side?
Hillsborough side, Tampa. Okay. I've lived in Carrollwood, Brandon, South Tampa, Davis Island, like all over. All right. Now I live downtown.
Well, the Mastery family name on the Pinellas side has. Oh, you know the Mastery family name?
I'm familiar with it a little bit. I'm curious.
Well, this is Matt Dom, an extension of that family, and he has Mastery's Brewing Company over on Blind Pass, and we'll be stopping by today because we're I didn't know. Little Joey here on the couch. We got him from Pet Pal Animal Shelter, and about 2.5 years ago now, and we've got an event with them coming up on Saturday night, so we'll plug that. So anyway, so I have Kim coming by at noon. Yeah. I'm glad you're here early, so we can get a little chatting out of the way.
Absolutely. I'm glad I came by.
All right, so tell me, you were talking about how you got into economics and finance?
Economics. And really looking at the labor problem we have.
Now, help break down economics for me, because when growing up, if you were to say economics, I immediately start thinking about money.
Yes.
But then after I read, was it Stephen Levitt?
What are those? Freakonomics.
Freakonomics.
Yes, Stephen Levitt, yes.
One of the first things they throw out there in the beginning is to go, economics, this isn't about money, it's about incentive. It's about what incentivizes human beings to do the things that they do. Is that where you are in economics? You're like, no, I'm talking about the money part of economics.
No, that it's the broader part. People focus on the money side of it, but really economics is society. The breakdown of the original word in Greek was like home management. So it's the management of society.
Okay.
And that's the study of that is what economics is.
And that's what you went to college for?
No, my college was communications. If I had gone to college for economics, I would never have come up with any of these ideas.
Okay, because my thought is this is very interesting because it almost seems like there's a psychological component to there's a social psychological component to economics. It's just
yes.
How do you then how do you simplify that and gauge it and judge it, or is there only so much that you can do with that, and that's why we don't have any perfect polls out there or any perfect systems or so on?
I started with two questions. My first book, Corporate Empathy, which you guys mentioned last week, I asked the question, when we talk about small companies, they're warm and cuddly, they're Main Street, they do good things. And when we talk about big multinational companies, they're cold and sociopathic and they pillage the planet and employees. I'm like, so
is there truth to that, or is that just us humans being humans?
It's no. There's truth and there's a mismatch of culture in that. But the point is the organizational structure is still the same. If you file an S corp and the S corp grows to a multinational level, it's still a group of people working towards something. And so that's where we have to look at the rules we're playing by.
I feel like, and I'm so glad you're here to have this conversation because I know that I can get caught up in the trap, like all of us do, of pointing our finger at one group of people and going, "You're what's wrong with the world," or "You're what's wrong with America." So for me, I'm not pointing at immigrants or minorities or women. Or to me, when I get backed into that corner, my brain starts to point at the powerful. So that is, and it doesn't have to be just corporations. That's institutions that run shit, from the government, finance, banking, charities, churches, all, when you have that kind of accumulation of power at the top, there's a lot of power at the top.
Yes.
So I will get focused on corporate America as being part of the problem. And here's part of how that happens. Because when you're talking about that smaller group that files the S corp and they've got 12 people working for them or 100 people working for them, they are still really close to the street. They're close to the action.
Yes.
And so there's a natural empathy that will occur there. The bigger those institutions get, and you get to the corporate level, you can get to the point where you hire that amazing sociopath who has an IQ of 160 and can come in and fix all of your problems economically. But there is a complete detachment because he or she is looking at that piece of paper or looking at the stack of papers in front of them, and then it's just a game. It's all numbers, and they don't give a shit if that person has 10 kids, 0 kids, is dying of something. It does not matter. So now, is that a misrepresentation of what happens? Is that just me in my head going, well, it's likely this kind of stuff's happening?
No, that's very accurate.
Okay.
And the thing is during the 60s, really 70s, 80s, and 90s, as we globalized, and that distance from the factory floor or the community became further and further away, and people became statistics, that was the truth of the way it worked. What's changed, though, in the last 10 years is social media has brought it closer. So now we know more about the conditions on other areas of the planet and for other people. So it's now all of a sudden that separation that you used to have at work, well, I can ignore what's going on there, is you come home from work and your children are on Facebook or on social media, or you're seeing what's going on in other parts of the planet, and you start to rebuild that empathy for people that are further and further away.
All right, so now we're going to bring in, for this part of the discussion, if you want to come down a little bit closer to this corner here, Matt, and you're right in there. That'll be your microphone there. This is how I've got kind of that microphone rigged up for you. Is you can put that on your, just go ahead and sit back and relax, and you put that bass right on your left thigh, and then there you go. Then it feels a little bit more comfortable. You just talk it out. You don't have to worry about leaning into it, just give me a check. Test 1 2.
Test 1 2.
All right, and talk into the front instead of the top there, and you should be just fine. All right, so we bring in Matt Dom. I always do that. Matt Dom, part of the Mastery family there. I want to adjust your camera just a little bit while we're at it. And we're going to talk a little bit about small business versus a big business. And then we got some stuff to plug for the weekend as well. But I want to adjust this camera up here. So, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Chris. How about yourself this morning?
All right, did you find the place just fine?
I did. You are correct about it being a little bit of a maze, though, getting back here.
Did you accidentally walk into Bubba's studio next door?
No, I happened to actually look at the address and say, oh, that's not the number of the building.
Yeah. Well, pretty much every guest that we have roll through here usually goes next door first to Bubba's studio before they make it over here. So Matt, Vinny, Matt.
Hey, Vinny. Good to meet you, Matt.
You too.
And Vinny is the author of a couple of books, one of them being Corporate Empathy. And so I want to bring you in as a small, your expertise as a small business owner, right? You're not, or maybe I'm wrong. Are you a corporation that has, hundreds of employees under you?
No, we got about a handful of employees going on at Masteries Brewing Company.
All right. But you're part of the Mastery. Do you know how many people right now, the Mastery family, extended everybody, that you guys employ in Pinellas County? Is it the thousands?
Most likely. I mean, so between, I think, just Mastery's Marine and Engine Center alone, they've probably got a pretty good sized crew out there. So I would imagine between all the other Mastery businesses out there and there's got to be in the thousands.
Well, we were talking about the difference between a huge corporation versus the smaller businesses.
Right.
What's your take on that? The difference between the two? Do you see much of a difference?
Oh, absolutely. But because whether you're a small business or a large business doesn't mean you always follow that standardized profile that most people would consider to be, oh, well, they're a large corporation. They must be entirely run by,
psychopaths.
Attorneys and
same thing.
Always looking at everything from a legal standpoint and all about just purely crunching numbers and whether or not the gross margins of, the finances, make sense. And, a lot of large organizations still have a at-home, down-to-earth, impact of, how does this affect the employees? How do we, really affect the culture and the experience that we want our staff and business to represent? So I think, just because it's a large corporation or a small corporation, like I said, I mean, it might be a mom and pop organization, but still running like a Fortune 500.
Because an example of this was talking to you last week, and because we have a Thursday night, all right? We're going to talk about a charity thing that we have coming up this Saturday. But our Thursday nights out there, I just started about 5 weeks ago with Trivia Night. You guys been doing that for a month or two prior to that, or a few months prior to that. And we're trying to get it up and off the ground, right? Well, I find out, just chatting with is Val your marketing person, or is she just your right-hand man?
So Val is the marketing and events coordinator at Masteries Brewing Company.
All right. So I'm chatting up with her, and she's like, yeah, we have, so the breakdown of some numbers, you guys, knows what kind of people are coming through and this and this and this. And she's like, something like 75% of the clientele that comes through here is males 30 to 50 or 30 to 55 or something like that, right?
Correct.
So when she said that, I immediately go, boom, sports. I go, well, then let's do this. If that's your, your meat and potatoes, well, let's do a theme night once a month. It'll be sports and this and this and this. But you were like, no, I don't. Even though I know that is the fillet of the people that come through here, I don't just want to always appeal to that one demographic. I want to make sure that we spread it out and we have a diverse crowd here and this and this and this. So no on the sports night. Or did it have more to do with wait a second. Or did it have more to do with, since you play on Thursday nights, you don't know sports, so you didn't want a sports night out there?
Well, I can definitely tell everybody, and it's I'm not shy on this at all. Val is much better at any sports knowledge than I, because she pays attention. Yeah, my sports knowledge is definitely lacking. I do enjoy watching sports. I always watch my USF Bulls. I'm USF Bulls alumni, so I do my best. So. But, it really doesn't only come down to that. A big part is us really wanting to be as inclusive as we can be, wanting to, not only grab the sports people, but want everybody else to want to come out. We don't like feeling like we're segregating out a particular crowd of going, oh, well, it's sports night, I know nothing, don't come out there. We still want to have it an approach where everybody feels like they could play.
I guess my point is to draw a parallel to corporate America, where I came from. And so that's why my brain went there, because as soon as I find out that piece of information, then I go, oh, then that's where I have to start drilling, you know? And so that's immediately where my head went, where you were going, oh, no. I'm all about the community here out at St. Pete Beach and Blind Pass. And I'm not just here trying to target 30 to 55-year-old men with beards with X amount of dollars and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so that's where I guess I feel like where America is right now. And so, Vinny, I want to come back to you with that one. And I just feel that's where corporate America is now. It's no longer, it is just all about the X's and O's. Please tell me I'm wrong, that there are enough huge corporations that have people at the top of them out there really thinking about the communities that they impact. They don't just look at a town that they're getting ready to go into and go, how can we suck the life out of this town? They're looking that this is a symbiotic relationship. It's a back and forth.
We're in the early stages of that group of companies coming together that is trying to do better.
Is that your Zuckerbergs?
That's Zuckerberg. You know, when you look at the technology sector, you know, Google's do no harm. You know, Zuckerberg with trying to connect the world. Or you look at, you know, there's a manufacturing company called Barry Waymiller, and there was a book, Everybody Matters, and they decided, you know, they take care of their employees 40 hours a week, and the CEO of the company has said, how do we take care of these people and send them home in good or better shape to their families at night? And so you have companies, and so I'm part of another movement called conscious capitalism, and conscious capitalism is based on, it's a 40-chapter wide international organization based on a book written by John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, on stakeholder orientation in business and being able to treat your employees like a team and your vendors like partners and treat the environment and the community that you operate in well. And like I said, it's a budding organization, and I think, you know, like I said, when that will become the standard way to do business.
In a very short order.
It has to.
All right. Well, I also want to talk, since we're on a subject of how, because there's a correlation I want to draw here that it has been bothering me for the past couple of days. Well, since those stinking Patriots, you know, won again, and that is why America hates the Patriots so much. Why, instead of, and I brought this up yesterday because I draw a parallel between the way that I perceive the Patriots compared to the way that I perceive corporate America. And that's the willingness to do anything to win. Whatever rules are out there, let's find out the consequences for those rules. And if the consequences for those rules aren't that high, then let's go ahead and break them or chance, you know, or bend them. Let's go ahead and test those limits. If we get caught, then it's only going to cost us this. No big deal. It's worth the risk. And so, again, this is my perception. I'm not saying this is a truth at all. And I'm not saying this is why the rest of America hates the Patriots. But instead, I feel like intellectually, is what I said. On paper, I feel like I should be able to look down and go, this is excellence. I should be cheering this. I should be reveling in that I'm living in this, you know, portion of sports history. But I'm not. I hate it. Do you guys have any theories?
I agree. I think they are willing to push the rules or break the rules. They're willing to weigh the consequences. And, you know, I think the NFL's got more problems with viewership than just the Patriots in the Super Bowl long term. But I think that is absolutely why they're the team that everybody loves to hate. And no, I'm not going to celebrate this excellence, because the excellence is done like exactly the way you described.
It's marred.
And I'm from Long Island originally, so
you can't.
I double, like, just can't.
So what do you think about this phenomenon? If you are outside of New England, you are hating that the Patriots are back in there. Is it just simple parody? There's just something about us as humans. We want to dominate, but we want to see it at least seem fair along the way.
Well, I guess, I don't know. I think if we really take a large view back and look over generations in this country of what we believe levels of success are, and how we get there, and everything from a company to a family all the way down to looking at businesses, the strategy, or at least the level of measurement on how we do it, has changed so much in the last 100 years. I mean, really, you know, when you look back to when America was first considered one of the main superpower out there, it was really about, you know, laying down a dominance and making sure we took a set position on what that meant. And now we're showing up more levels of flexibility of well, we need to be dominant, but we don't need to hurt these people's feelings. We need to be dominant, but we want to make sure,
but not a-holes,
right? But not exactly.
Well, I mean, I think there's a balance there. I think, you want to be able to dominate your I don't say your environment, but I guess maybe that's your industry or whatever it is that you're doing at the time. But at the same time, once you've, it's like how I brought up Roxy a little bit earlier, and Roxy's not here today because her anxiety was just too much. Well, when I would take her to the park, and still to this day when I take her to the park, she immediately gets down on her back, right? She just submits. This is the way she's learned to deal with the others in the park. I'll just submit. You guys go ahead and do your sniffing. Yes, you're more dominant. Now get out of here, right? It's all well and good because most dogs will do that. They do the little sniff, and they move on. But that dog that's insecure and needs to prove its point in that, and now that another dog's on its back, it decides to be. That's when it becomes aggressive. That's when it becomes overly dominant. That's when she hops back up on her feet, and even though she's 8.5 pounds, it doesn't matter. If you're 100 pounds, she's coming after you. And I think it's the same kind of thing. Is you can dominate your environment where everybody just submits. You are the dominant force in the world. But if you try to take that and put your foot on their neck, that's when it goes from being just dominating the field to tyranny. I'm thinking. Yes, no, maybe.
Maybe. Maybe. Maybe. I mean, I think it definitely takes a certain position. So, obviously, Mastery's Brewing Company, we're in the beer industry, and a huge conversation going on just about anywhere, and we hear it on a regular basis. And every brewery, bar, tap room is, oh, craft beer, man, you guys got all this huge competition, all these breweries popping up everywhere. And it's like, well, no, I mean, no one brewery is going around, bad-mouthing another brewery, undercutting the other brewery. We're collaborating, we're working hard together. We all want to see the other grow and prosperous. And, for us, some of the larger battles have been with the big beer companies. The ones who, already hold 75 to 80% of the world's sharehold of beer. And we're like, well, craft beer is, barely getting up into the 20% right now in the world. And, how can a company who's already got, an industry that's already got 80% want to squash the neck out? And like you said, put your, somebody who's want to put in their foot down the neck and really grab hold and be like, no, this is what you got to do. And what that comes down to us is again, going back to our, accountants and our attorneys of what we can afford to defend us as a industry versus what somebody else can. And like you said, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, and you find rules that you go, can I break those and get away with them? Can I break those, or can I afford to spend somebody else's money to break those rules because I know the other people can't afford to pay somebody to do the same? And then it gets to a point where, yes, I entirely agree with now it's really just who has more money and can make things happen that shouldn't be happening. They become morally and ethically wrong.
On the show right now, Matt Dom from Masteries and my other guest, Vinny. And in your book, what's your last name again, Vinny?
Tafuro. Don't overpronounce it.
Tafuro. Vinny Tafuro. In your book, Corporate Empathy, does it focus on the changing tides?
Corporate empathy was an exploration of could companies have a moral compass if they wanted to, and the answer is yes. There's no law forbidding it, and even since I published that book in 2012, the laws have become more in line with companies taking a moral or ethical stand and doing that. And you're seeing that in the news over the last couple of years. CVS just last week has announced that by 2019, they'll have no photoshopped or altered images on any of their beauty products. And if you have a beauty product that doesn't fall in line with that, there's going to be a warning label on it. That's not in the best short-term interest of shareholders necessarily, but CVS has decided that's the right thing to do for the customers and society where we're at. Same thing with them removing cigarettes and tobacco a few years ago.
What about the energy sector? Do you focus much on the energy sector? Because the
energy sector I've used as an example for net neutrality actually a couple weeks ago. If you look at the energy sector here in Florida, has used its regulatory body to keep solar out of Florida.
Right.
And what I had argued against net neutrality on the idea that net neutrality could eventually be used to keep cheap wireless out of areas. So if all of a sudden internet is a utility, then, well, perhaps some of the internet companies could say, well, Google can't bring in their fiber line or their wireless service because it's less stable than our hardwired service, and we'd be locked into an old technology the same way that power companies are locking us in out of solar right now.
Yeah, I go back and forth in this net neutrality thing.
Yeah.
Jonny, who was doing the show for me with me for the first couple of months, he was for getting rid of all those rules and opening it up. He's very much a capitalist, free market kind of a person. I guess I just have some fears, with that, and I go, well, it should be considered a utility. It is a utility, but then I go, well, look at our utilities and how you have a handful of people that are controlling that. And if it weren't for, because if what you were just talking about, the solar panel or the solar thing, we voted that down, right? They tried to trick us into thinking that you should vote for this. I can't remember if it was for or against, whatever this was.
There were two different amendments. You had to vote the opposite way of what was intuitive to it. And that was the power industry trying to fool the consumer.
And that's such BS, man. Just come out and be honest with the people. No, that's not the way it works. Got to keep control of your industry and make sure nobody can get in there.
And that's long term. Short term, I have the same fears everybody does. If with net neutrality away, the telecom industry is going to play with pricing because they're going to be focused on short-term profits. But what that means is they're going to be taking their eye off the ball that SpaceX, Facebook, and Google and other companies are developing technologies where they'll be able to provide Wi-Fi at a cheap price.
All right.
And they'll undercut.
From, what is it, your mouth from your lips? Is that what to God's ears? Is that how it goes?
Something like that.
All right, well, we're going to come back to you guys here in just a second. I'd like to knock out some stuff you should know. And, well, let's see how we'll do that. We'll do that so you're just staring at the whole time. We'll get to some stuff you should know here. Scattered storms today, still high of 72, going to be cooling down again tomorrow. Here's stuff you should know for Tuesday, January 23rd. President Trump on Monday evening signed a government spending measure ending a government shutdown that began at midnight on Friday. The stopgap funding, which expires February 8th, passed both the Senate and the House by large margins earlier in the day, but we'll be revisiting this in 2 weeks. Authorities are reporting one person was killed and many were wounded in a high school shooting in rural Kentucky. Governor Matt Bevin tweeted that it happened Tuesday morning at Marshall County High School. A shooting suspect was reported in custody. The community is about 120 miles northwest of Nashville, Tennessee. More inmates died in Florida prisons last year than in any other year on record, by a lot, leaving the state scrambling to find causes to find the solution. To identify causes to find solutions. The tally, 428 inmate deaths in 2017. That's a 20% increase over previous years. The inmates who died were, on average, also much younger than in previous years. The state of Florida will decide today whether or not to pursue the death penalty against Hal Emmanuel Donaldson III. As a matter of fact, that may have already happened. I probably should have looked it up a minute ago. This is why I'm going to need to get some interns and get some people here on the show. The suspected Seminole Heights killer is accused of killing 4 people over 6 weeks in Seminole Heights here in Tampa. Oscar nominations have been announced, and the nominees for Best Picture are The Shape of Water, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, Lady Bird, Get Out, Darkest Hour, The Post, Dunkirk, Call Me By Your Name, and Phantom Thread. And lastly, Minnie Mouse finally gets her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And that is stuff you should know for today. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going on this weekend, Matt. And one of the things that I really enjoy, that I like about what you guys do there at Masteries, is how community-minded you are, and that every time that I turn around, because Masteries is not a big place. Well, I don't even. What's the capacity over there? 50 people?
Inside the building, we can do about another 75-ish outside because the size of the beer garden and the patio.
Right. So what I like is that every time I turn around, you and Val are doing something with the community. You are thinking outside the box. You're pulling off little events, big events, and always including charities. And I really like that. So this weekend, you guys will be doing something with Pet Pal. My wife and I are going to come out there for a couple hours as well and help you out. But what's going on?
So this weekend, Masteries Brewing Company is going to be doing their first chili cook-off. Being a little bit cooler weather, that perfect time of year, we figured, hey, what's a better time to go ahead and attempt to do a chili cook-off than right now? Fortunately, it's a little warmer this week than it was, the week before. I don't care how good the chili is. I don't think I want to be eating it in 38-degree outdoor weather.
No.
It's not so that's not going to make for any fun. But yeah, so we're gonna have a chili cook-off. Everybody, you can go on through the Facebook if you still want to sign up. There is still time.
So who's a part of this cook-off? Is it just regular dudes? Or you got restaurants coming?
Anybody who wants to come in. If a restaurant wants to jump in, we'd be more than happy to have them.
I make a pretty good chili myself.
You should sign up, Chris. All you got to do is so check out the event on our Facebook page.
All right. And
through the event page, there is a link, so you can go ahead and sign up. All you got to do is fill out basic information, your name. If there's anything you want to put, maybe you have a special name for your chili that you're cooking, and basically it's just about commitment. So because it's free to enter. What we're gonna do is we'll be able to set up tables with everybody's chili on there. Put a whole bunch of
the stuff that goes along with it.
Yep, spoons, plates, all that kind of stuff. And then people who come in who want to try it each pay $5, and then they're also the judges. So when they pay that $5, they'll get their little judging card. They'll get to go through, pick out their top ones, and then 100% of the money that comes from the chili cook-off is going to go to Pet Pal.
And that's what I love. So 100% of that $5 basically is a donation there to begin to be a judge. $5 donation to judge other people's chili.
Absolutely.
I love it. I make a pretty good margarita chili. Nice. That I learned a long time ago, and also something that's the sweet and spicy side of things that I. Are there any rules? Like, does it have to have a certain amount of beans, or? You
know what? We've put absolutely no rules on this. This is our first time, so really, if you've got any rules that you think you could break, go for it this time, because we might get smarter on the next one. Right. But everything's fair game right now.
Okay. And sitting there right by your side is little Joey Bishop. And when we first got him, his name was, I'm not even supposed to utter it out loud. My wife does not want him to have any association with his old life. It was Morgan. See, he doesn't even flinch. He doesn't even know. And we got him from Pet Pal Animal Shelter. It was about 2.5 years ago. Just a wonderful addition to our little family. But you guys are doing this all for Pet Pal this weekend. How did you guys get hooked up with them?
So trying to recall, a few events back, we've worked with a couple different pet organizations. One of them was the Dunedin Doggy Rescue. And actually, one of the gals who was working with that also works with Pet Pal. And then we knew that you in the past had done some things with Pet Pal, so we just go ahead and reached out through our multiple connections and decided.
Voila!
There it goes.
Well, I'll be there. I'll be there every single time I can if you have Pet Pal there. And this time, I may bring my own chili. But thank you very much, man. Thanks for stopping by. What do you think? Because I've been trying to get Matt to come out here and check out the place since I started this new show. How do you like my little cave tucked up in the Himalayas of Bake More Pies?
This is nice. This is definitely the Chris cave up here.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, I will see you on Thursday night then.
Sounds good, man.
Oh, wait. I always do this. I'm a horrible host. I don't know why people keep hiring me. No, because I want to just plug real quickly what we're doing in February. So we're talking about the trivia night, right? And that starts at 7 o'clock on Thursday. It's only an hour and a half, 90 minutes. Zip, zap, zop, get you in, get you out. And but in February, we're going to do a tournament of champions over the 4 weeks, the 4 Thursdays. And it's going to be decade-oriented, meaning the first Thursday is going to be 80s, decade of the 80s.
Correct.
Second Thursday, the 90s. Then it will be current, 00 to now. Then the 4th Thursday, and this is where the Tournament of Champions comes in, for everybody who played those previous weeks, you come back on that, and all the points that you accumulated in those first 3 rounds, you get to keep. For those that come out for the very first time that night of the 4th, of the Tournament of Champions, you will have a preliminary round of 4 questions worth 25 points apiece, so an opportunity for you to basically score 100 points going into the final round, just in case. Because we don't want to discourage people from not playing trivia if they happen to show up on our 4th Thursday. And then we'll have an unveiling of a trophy at that point and have a lot of fun. So that starts the 1st Thursday in February, the entire month. Looking forward to that. Once again, thank you very much, Matt Dom of Masteries, for coming by.
Thank you for having me on, Chris.
All right, sir. And the next time, and by the way, if you ever want to check in, you can do it right there from the brewery, and we'll pop you. Make sure you have that great shot of all your stuff there in the backdrop and all that. We can go live right to the brewery.
Sounds good.
All right. I will see you on Thursday night. I want to get to some of the news of the day as well. I want to go over some of the topics, and Vinny's going to hang out for a little bit, and we're just going to chat it up about some of the news of the day. But let me do this. And I go through all the trouble of making these graphics in the morning. The least I can do is put them up at some point. I just did. All right. Randy Masters is great. I helped install the exterior plug for the food trucks. Randy, it's good to hear from you. All right. So, are you a football guy, by the way, Vinny?
Not so much anymore.
No,
it's kind of faded over the last 5 years.
Why? Because over the last 5 years, it's about the same time period that it's faded for a lot of Americans, and they're trying to figure out why. You know, over the past year, they're trying to blame it all on Colin Kaepernick and taking a knee and disrespecting America and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's not, I think, the major move. For me, I moved downtown in Tampa 6 years ago, and quite frankly, my Sundays there's quite a bit more choice to do, and in my from like 25 years old to 30, my mid 30s, football was this unmovable thing on my schedule.
Yeah.
And just, now it's like I have limited time, and Sundays in Florida are beautiful. And why do I want to sit in front of a TV all day?
It's very kind of a similar thing with me as well. Now, for me, it does go back to the mid 90s when I first started to make that break.
Yeah.
And it was after I realized how much it controlled my heart, my emotions. And it was not just football, but I was a huge Atlanta Braves fan growing up, so the Braves, and which was a very hard, I'm a kid of the 80s, and they were not winning in the 80s. They did start to win in the 90s. But I don't remember, it was somewhere around 95, 96, 97. It just dawned on me one day that what the effect that it had on me day in and day out. And I was like, no, I don't like that. I don't want to have something that's technically, in all due respect, meaningless. I mean, it's a game.
Yeah, I get it.
Affect me that much.
Yeah, like Monday, Tuesday, you're like moping at work.
Yeah.
For no real reason. That's definitely part of. I had gone through that at one point too, and it's funny now because I sit there and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't affect me anymore. Yeah, I love when Tampa Bay teams are winning.
Yep, same here.
But it doesn't impact my mood anymore at all. I mean, there's just none. And I think for me, I agree that's definitely a personal thing. I think the trend for everyone though is just the NFL's just bold ego with how important they believe the NFL is, and they've positioned themselves. And I think there's a sleeper in there with I don't know if you saw the movie Concussion a year and a half ago with Will Smith.
No.
But it's the movie about the brain injuries and how they're affecting players in retirement. And I think that is going to be a slow drain on NFL fandom over the next decade or so.
I think so too. Now, it was just about 2 years ago that Mark Cuban, I don't know if you remember this or not, or maybe it's been 3 years now, but Mark Cuban wrote, it was an op-ed piece. It was a post on his Facebook page.
Yeah.
But he was calling for the end of the NFL in a decade. And like I said, this was about 2 or 3 years ago. But he was trying to break down their business model, which I didn't understand as much as, whatever. But yeah, he was saying that the end is nigh for the NFL. That what you knew of the NFL 2 years ago will not be the NFL 8 years from now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's they're locked into a structure, and I don't see them evolving very much.
Oh, I think it's also going to start at the amateur level.
Yeah.
There will be some sweeping changes that happen. There's going to be that one story of that one kid, that had everything, but something. It's just going to be something. It's going to hit at the right time, and then like every Pop Warner League, every high school, everybody out there is going to go to touch or flag or soccer or
soccer,
something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's the changes time, like you were talking about in your book. I'm assuming because being the great host that I am, if I knew how to read, I would have read your book.
It's all right. I have other stuff you can watch.
All right, good.
We'll get caught up.
Oh, so do you? So some of the stuff you're talking about in your books, you have YouTube channels.
Yeah, well, actually, my new book is Unlocking the Labor Cage.
Okay,
and that's the one I published about 1.5 years ago. And it's the first question with corporate empathy was can companies do good things? The second book is when we talk about labor and technological unemployment, robots automating jobs, what if we redefine what labor is? And anyway, so last October, or this past October, the Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network here in Tampa Bay, they put out a 1-hour kind of fireside chat with me and a friend of mine, Debbie Stone, is the VP of Education at the Florida Aquarium. And so I got I'm calling it like my PBS fireside chat to talk about my book and my economic proposals. And it aired on the TBNE network, or TBAE network. That's just tripping me up right now. And that is available on YouTube and on Facebook and on their website as well, and different segments. So yeah, I've been lucky to have some other outlets that are not just reading.
What do you mean by redefining labor?
So right now, the field of economics in its entirety defines labor as the compensation by an employer of an employee to produce a good or service.
Okay.
A stay-at-home parent doesn't count as labor in the economy. A child going to school doesn't count as labor in the economy. Contributing to a Wikipedia page doesn't count as labor in the economy. And so that's not a failure of these things being valuable. It's a failure of the field of economics to take into consideration all value. And it's a big flip.
All right, so what difference would that make then if we all of a sudden were to shift that prism a little bit and go, hey, labor is no longer necessarily an exchange of cash for whatever services you provided, but labor also means all of these things too. How does that change?
It changes everything. And when you talk about incentives or the companies and the governments right now, focus on GDP. And for a lot of the post-World War II era, there was enough. You take the typical 50s or 60s middle-class American family. You had a white working husband with a wife, and he was paid enough extra money to afford a stay-at-home wife and to put his kids through school and to provide all these things. As the economy has gotten more efficient with labor, now all of a sudden in the 80s, you needed 2 people working to have enough money to afford the kid. Now you don't have enough money to afford any of that in some scenarios as we keep getting more and more efficient. But it doesn't mean those things aren't valuable. And right now the field of economics is basically ignoring the fact that all these other things are valuable because they can't easily measure it.
All right, but if you were able to shift a society's perspective on this, you're saying that it's going to make society better because we will put more sense of worth into those things you mentioned to contributing to a Wikipedia page, or let's say a charity.
Yeah.
Not specifically. If you're contributing to a charity, if you are a stay-at-home parent, these things need to be included in the labor force because they contribute to society just as much as anybody else who is doing something for money.
Yes.
Oh, genius. All right. Well, I'm voting for you for president.
Thank God I don't have to be president for this to work. I think that actually it wouldn't work that way. And this is, if you've seen the term put out there of universal basic income, and it's this idea that's been around since the 60s of the government through taxation providing a basic income to all citizens. And I'm not a fan of that, and I don't think it'll work. I don't think it could even be implemented in this country. But the idea...
What's the difference between that, by the way, and communism?
Well, communism is ownership of...
the government owning things
of companies by the government.
Okay.
This is distribution of... So this is more socialism.
Like a hyper-socialism.
Yeah, universal basic income would basically be a form of socialism.
Okay.
It would be but what I am looking at is in this new economy that's driven on data and contributions by all of us. When we take an Uber or Lyft ride, or we check in on Facebook, or you leave an Amazon review for my book after you've read it, please. All of that stuff is called user-generated content, and all of it has value. And we can measure those contributions and come up with ways for the private sector to directly invest in education, because educated population creates better content for the internet. And so we form a loop rather than a one-way pipeline of money out.
All right, Vinny, my next softball. It seems like we are living in an age of extremes. And you have one side who seem to be these hyper-capitalists that want to get rid of all government. Just get it down to nothing, get them out of the way, is the way they see it. And then you have the other side going, no, you're too greedy on your. We need to give more and more power to the federal government so we can stay on top of you guys. And so it almost feels like, and I'm not a political pundit. Mm-hmm. It does look like the Democratic Party is getting ready to make that shift to become a socialist party. With the it depends. It all depends.
Yeah.
But is it an either or? How do you see the balance between free enterprise and the government's role in that?
So the problem is the economists. And you're going to see I'm going to beat up on economics quite a bit. So if you are a liberal economic institution or think tank or person, say anything funded by George Soros,
okay,
you are writing economic policy recommendations for the government to regulate the private sector. If you are a conservative think tank or institution or person, say the Koch brothers, you are funding policy recommendations that tell the government to deregulate the private sector. Nobody in the field of economics is writing directly for the private sector to tell the private sector what to do. Like if you give a roadmap, and I'll use the example of Henry Ford in 1914. He made his own decision as a business person to pay his workers $5 a day. Not because he wanted to spend more money on workers, but because if he paid them enough to afford what was coming off the assembly line, his workers could afford the cars. The economic community needs to start adapting itself and writing policy recommendations for the private sector. Right now, the reason Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates are saying we would like to try a universal basic income is because it's the last thing they've heard from the economic community that sort of makes sense in theory. But if the economic community says you have all this capital and you can do these things and here's the business reason why, they might try it. And that's not happening. So it's divided the political sector.
And one of the reasons why they are talking about universal basic income, and it's not just because all of a sudden they're pulling, again, socialism and communism out of their butts because they just want to take care of the world. No, they're visionaries. And they see that right around the corner, it's happening now, it's starting now, and then before we know it, there are going to be millions upon millions upon millions upon tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions around the world that are displaced, that thought they had secure jobs, and 5 years ago they did, and then all of a sudden they are going to be displaced by software, by hardware, robotics, automation, and so forth. So they're scrambling in their heads going, all right, what can we do? What's out there? Well, man, this is going to be fast and furious. We got to make sure that these people have a buffer. We got to get them some kind of a cash, but you see it differently.
Yeah, because universal basic income doesn't solve the problem that economics doesn't count all value. And so it's like until we know all the value and how that value is circulated, we can't come up with a solution. We can come up with a Band-Aid, and universal basic income very well may be a short-term Band-Aid that consolidates welfare programs, but it doesn't change the fact that we don't know how to value a stay-at-home parent who educates their child. And that's just a fundamental flaw when economics is society.
Right. Because
there's an overlap. It's not, the economy is not part of society. Economy and society are becoming the same thing.
And they really are, because everything's about incentive to get to the end, whatever that is, whether it's cash, property,
notoriety.
Yeah.
I mean, think about two people that are trying to cure cancer. Tell me that's not competitive.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
Some of the great competitions in history are between scientists or universities that are on the brink and they're racing to get there. And the shit that they are willing to do to each other to throw the other ones off the, just like in corporate America, just like in politics, just like everywhere else.
Yet right now the funding model for curing cancer is running 5Ks, and that's sad. Because funding cancer researchers.
Well, okay.
But like this is a model is I don't know what the average cancer research person makes, but say it's $100,000 for ease.
All right.
Maybe they're going to save 10% of that in their savings account. But the other $90,000 a year is going to be spent on Amazon, on Facebook, on Google, on all of these things. So it's literally just a pass-through. You talk about trickle-down economics, invest in cancer research, and that's going to trickle right back to the corporate sector, because all of those people, they're going to use Uber, they're going to use Lyft, they're going to use travel.
I will say that although it's funny when you said that, the business model right now for curing cancer are 5Ks. I think the 5Ks, yes, they're there to raise some money, but it's also about people who have all shared a similar horrifically tragic experience, or were this close to it being a horrifically tragic experience, coming together to.
I've done them. There is community building in it. There really is, and that's why I've run them as well. But that's the thing is. We need community built around that stuff, and by participating, that is valuable. We need that, the awareness that it brings, but it also is too much. We need other ways to fund this stuff that are more consistent and at the level that things need to be funded.
And I hope you guys don't mind. Obviously, today has gotten off on an interesting kind of a sidetrack. I haven't even gone to the comments here in a while to see if people are even still paying attention. All right, you got people. But when we're talking about the upcoming future, these next 10 years, maybe it takes 2 decades for some of these doom and gloom prophecies in the in economics, come to be. There are still those that go, don't try to come up with a Band-Aid. I guess this would kind of be the Mitt Romney capitalist, in the same way that back when Obama, saved the auto industry, you had people going, no, because what you're going to do is you're just staving off the inevitable. Mm-hmm. This needs to happen now. It needs to hurt now. Yes, there will be chaos for a short period of time, but they will get their shit together like that. And if it's not the main ones, then you'll have some guys that have been waiting in the wings, just ready to pounce. And this is the way that capitalism works. Just let it happen. And yes, it'll be a painful period, but we'll be okay on the other side. So some people are looking at what you and I are talking about right now, this future of automation and where there's going to be tens, if not hundreds of millions of people displaced because of this stuff. Yes, it's going to suck for some people. There will be some losers in that transition. But on the other side of it, it's almost like going to the gym and working out. Yes, you're breaking down the muscles, you're tearing them down. It's going to hurt. You're going to limp around for a little bit, but on the other side of that, you're going to be stronger.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I guess I pretty much answered it. I just
answered
there
the
we go.
No,
there was no question there. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, man. It's up to you. I got a couple of things in the news today. If you want to stick around and be a co-host of the show, or if you got other things.
No, I can hang out. Absolutely.
Let's run through some of the. Let's run through some of the things that that caught my eye today. Coming from the TampaBay.com. Record number of inmates died in Florida prisons last year. And they died younger. Now, we don't know why, and that's the so start processing this, because I also saw in your bio that you're was it a genius or a visionary? One of the two.
And that I did not come up with that. Somebody else said it. It's been in print, so it has to be true. It
is. You're a visionary, so I need you to envision what's happening here and give me some answers. Here we go. More inmates died in Florida prisons last year than ever. Okay, on record. And by 20%. It wasn't just like, oh, yeah, they beat the record by 1 or 2. It was a 20% increase. And this is not death penalty stuff either. This is people dying in prison. So a tally of 428 inmates in 2017. That's a 20% increase over previous years. And then something else to throw on top of this is that the inmates who died on average were younger than ever before. More of them dying, younger. Why? Quote, a 20% spike in prison deaths is, of course, alarming, as is the fact that it's younger inmates that are dying rather than people who have been there for decades. This says somebody from the Florida American Civil Liberties Union. But I don't want to jump to any conclusions. Many of these are under investigation, and there are multiple causes. So those who died in 2017, we take a stab at the average age of somebody who died in 2017 in prison.
40.
56.3 years of age.
Okay.
All right. Since 2012, the average age of death in the prison system has swung between 57 and 58 years old. Well, I mean, it's only 1 year. It's only, come on.
That's why I said 40. They said younger. I thought, well, younger is 40. I mean, I didn't.
All right. So any guesses on what's happening here in the Florida prison system?
Do they give a breakdown of the specific causes of death?
No, that's the.
I mean, is it fights? Is it?
There's still a lot of them under investigation.
Heart attacks.
There's still a lot of investigation. All right, next story. Are you a Budweiser guy?
No.
No? All right, the Budweiser Clydesdales are in town. I don't know if you want to track them down or not. Beautiful animals, 6 feet tall at the shoulder. 6 feet tall at the
I'm a fan of Budweiser, the
Jeez.
brand. I don't drink the beer very much anymore.
You're not a beer guy?
I drink
You're a
less
liquor
beer,
guy?
and so it's usually craft.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so
Yep.
that's-
I understand. So the world-famous Budweiser Clydesdales are making several appearances across the Bay Area this week. Do you know how much these animals weigh?
A couple tons?
A ton.
A ton.
A
Okay.
ton. A 2,000-pound horse. They're 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Jeez. The 8-horse hitch will pull the Budweiser Red Beer Wagon down historic Bayshore Boulevard during Tampa's annual Gasparilla Parade of Pirates on Saturday, January 27th, which is this weekend. And at the same time that we have the NHL in town, that's going to
Be
be
a busy weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I'm staying in Pinellas County. come on over. We got 2 bedrooms for those of you that want to escape Hillsborough this weekend. And then if you want, you can go online. I got this from ABC Action News, but they have a list if you want to grab the kids. And you want to grab the kids. As I see at the top of this thing, recommended 20-year-old adult film star found dead in Las Vegas home. Hey, grab the kids. And they got a complete list there of the horses that join the Budweiser Clydesdale hitch are at least 3 years of age, must be bay in color, have 4 white legs, a blaze of white on the face, a black mane and tail, and have a gentle temperament. They will eat about 25 quarts of feed, 50 pounds of hay, and 30 gallons of water every single day. A beautiful animal. All right. Do you have any thoughts on the, we're sitting here talking about economics and there was a government shutdown that lasted 3 days, which we will be back revisiting this subject in about 2 weeks. February 8th is when they're going to have to figure something out again. What's your take on that?
I saw a meme today on that, and memes are less. It was a meme
Memes
shared
sometimes
by
be perfect.
a personal friend, not one of the meme sites, but about the fact that the confusion when you look at this from the outside and go, wait a second, the country doesn't have any spending limits, so why does it need a budget?
I
think that it really is political jockeying, and that's all it is, and it's unfortunate that we're in a situation like that.
At the expense of hundreds of thousands of
people.
military personnel and others. All right, next up we got, let's see here. Man threatens to kill CNN employees. Well, let's find more about that. A Michigan man was arrested after an FBI investigation accused of threatening to travel to Atlanta to commit mass murder at CNN. Okay. This guy's name is Brandon Greismer. Made 22 calls to CNN earlier this month. He's 19 years old. It began with claims of fake news and ended with threats of violence. Greismer told CNN reporter, among other things, fake news, I'm coming to gun you all down. He then called again saying, I'm smarter than you, more powerful than you. I have more guns than you, more manpower. Your caste is about to get gunned down in a matter of hours. He continued, I'm going to go to Georgia tonight, right now, to go to the CNN headquarters to effing gun down every single last one of you. Investigators were able to trace the caller and stop him before he was able to carry out any of his violence threats. He is in jail, $10,000 unsecured bond. And I'm going to start here because I'm coming to you when it comes to your thoughts first on business stuff, economic stuff. But this is media stuff, and this has been my home, my industry for 25 years. Now, granted, I'm not a journalist, never been a journalist, and in all the radio shows that I ever did, we are an aggregate. We collect the interesting stories of the morning and then have our takes on them throughout the morning. So when you have a president, a sitting president, it's not just about calling out the media. There's a lot of reasons to call out the media. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reason to call out journalists and to challenge the power that we wield, in media. But to go so far as to call the press the enemy of the state, which is quote unquote, from about a year ago. And to stay on that, I understand the strategy politically because your base is anti-media too, and you want to make sure that you play those cards just right. But I do feel like our president has not walked that line of making sure that the people of going after the media the way he does.
Yeah.
And at the same time, making sure that he's not sending a signal that these people are the enemy of America. And so that does concern me. Yeah. I also want you to notice that I'm not just teeing off on our president. I realize that this is a sensitive subject. You have a certain, have 25% of Americans that this guy can do no wrong. Yet 20, except for the tweeting, because even those 25% of Americans, hey,
they stop tweeting.
Yeah, please just stop tweeting, Mr. President, and we can defend you more.
Yeah.
But you got 25% of Americans too who are vehemently. It doesn't matter what you say about the guy. The guy can do no good either. So I do understand the dynamics here, but it does bother me that he doesn't have the wherewithal, the acumen. He's allegedly the smartest person on the planet.
Yeah.
You would think that he would be careful getting too close to that line because you have people like this. You have the guy that went walking into that pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. because you had people driving this narrative that that the Democrats are a party of pedophiles, and they have a secret pedophile headquarters where they hide children, and the next thing you know, you have a guy walking in there and firing off a couple of shots from his rifle. So I don't know if you have a take on the state of media and how our president should be responding to it.
I'll stay away from the president side of it and go with the media side, regardless of whether it's Fox News or CNN. Is in economics, the media are given one metric, and that's advertising revenues. And so if you're only given one metric, you can only work on that one metric. So it's
and I would
just
say
the way we're going.
I would say it hasn't always been like that way.
It hasn't. No.
You go back, and whether you agreed with that, the old school reporters and journalists and their angles or not, I do believe that up until just very recently, maybe in the last 15 years or so, that there was this constant balance back in the what do they call those, whatever rooms, the newsrooms,
in the newsrooms, and
between
I would say
that the economic part and making sure that we're doing the stories we're supposed to be doing.
And I would say 50, I don't remember the exact founding date, but when Craigslist came on, those little classified ads used to pay for the newspapers. That Craigslist gutted the foundation of journalism by removing who lists if you're going to sell your couch, you're going to list it in a newspaper? No, you list it on Craigslist.
Right.
And Craigslist funding model is, I think, real estate listings in New York and San Francisco. That's the only funding they bring in. And so it was that Craigslist taking off that started gutting the classifieds, which the classified advertising would run the news organization. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm estimating here, but that was a big part of the newspaper industry. And then, like I said, the peeling off of advertisers now. If I'm a small business, I'm not going to advertise in the newspaper. Why do I need to hit 1 million people? I need to hit the people around my craft brewing place, or that are interested in that, and I can target them better. So the newspapers now are trying to target the largest population they can, which means they have to narrow down as much as they can. And so it's unfortunately the metrics the media industry are set to that's causing the problem.
It does bother me too when people start going off on the media. The media is huge. This is the media, technically, right? Kinda.
It's changing.
This is the media. CNN's the media. The New York Times is the media. Fox News and even your Breitbarts and Alex Jones, and technically that's all part of the media now. If you're using a medium to disseminate information, then you are the media.
We're all influencers, and
maybe that's a better way to put it. Yeah,
we're all influencers, and our circle of influence changes. And so right now, if you're a YouTube channel, if you produce video content, and you have enough people, if you influence enough people, YouTube will monetize your channel and cut you in on some of the proceeds. But if you only influence a couple of people, you don't get any proceeds for that.
Right.
And that's, again, when I look at economics isn't counting all the value. If you're a mother and you're an influencer of only 2 children, you are one of the most important influencers, or father. If you're a parent and you're influencing just 2 children, that is an important influence. If you're mentoring a at-risk teenager, you're an influencer. But economics doesn't measure that unless you monetize it, unless you're going to monetize the kids that you're influencing.
Right.
And that's just, again,
which
a
is known as
failure of
exploitation.
But if economics is a science or a behavioral science, economics needs to upgrade the toolkit that it provides business. It's not businesses or not the media's responsibility to do things that it doesn't have metrics for. You need to know how to do it.
Now, Vinny, you're wearing a very interesting shirt. The shirt is, if corporations are people, shouldn't they act like adults? And that is a reference to, what the hell was that thing called? Go ahead.
Mitt Romney in 2011 or whatever, with corporations are people, my friend.
Right. Well, it's law.
Yes.
Now, so
No.
what the hell is the name of that? The bill or the
Citizens
There we go.
United.
Thank you, Citizens United. So that is a callback to Citizens United when our Supreme Court somehow said that corporations have the same freedoms as American citizens. Which I feel like was a turning point for America. I feel like it was a turning point for our society, or maybe it's just because I was going through some stuff at that time that when that happened, I became very anti like everything, government, and I was like, this is it. This is the beginning of the end. It's obvious that the powerful, the elite, the 1% of the 1%. Have control of everything once you have these people who are supposed to, these are Supreme Court justices ruling in favor or ruling the way that they did. The way that I saw as an average person was it. This is it's all bullshit. It's all a sham now.
Yeah. When you look at that case, it does look like that. But the thing is corporations have evolved over the last 150 years. The first time corporations were considered people was actually after the passage of the 14th Amendment, which was supposed to give people of color rights after slavery was eliminated.
Okay.
And the 14th Amendment was used as a backdoor for corporations to gain personhood initially. So it's actually over 100 years ago. All right. But this thing has evolved. And with Citizens United, that court ruling gave corporations the rights of people to mostly influence things like politics. Yeah. But what that also did is it allowed Netflix to run documentaries that call out politics as well. So it's gone both ways. While that case was mostly, I think it was against a Hillary documentary.
Yep.
Now I call it the Netflix industrial complex or documentary complex on food safety and capitalism and all these things. Those documentaries toe the line of very political in many instances, and they're protected because it's Citizens United.
Okay.
Going a little bit further now.
But then the really big downside that everybody made a big deal out of at the time, has seemed to subside, was the CPAC. Culture that came out of that. So once that passed, then they were allowed to really start funneling money into these politicians without any paper trail, without anybody knowing what's going on.
There's blind amounts of money now and ungodly amounts of money. And that's a side effect short term. But now looking long term, again, I moved to another case, the Hobby Lobby case. In 2014.
Hobby Lobby.
Big
how the hell did Hobby Lobby get dragged into this?
It's an interesting case because in the Hobby Lobby case, the focus of the case, if you're not familiar, was Hobby Lobby, the company, because of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, didn't want to offer 4 specific types of birth control to their employees because they felt it was against their moral beliefs. And
so here we go. The Green family owns and operates Hobby Lobby. And the Green family has organized business around the principles of the Christian faith and has explicitly expressed the desire to run the company according to biblical precepts, one of which is the belief to use contraception is immoral under the Okay, so there you go.
So the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Hobby Lobby family that they could limit that. And the media blew up on this all around women's rights and birth control rights, which was appropriate. But the side effect of that, and you had, I think it was Ruth Ginsburg, her dissenting statements in the dicta of the court case where this is a slippery slope. If somebody is, a Jehovah's Witness and doesn't want to provide blood transfusions, they could. But what they didn't notice in this case is that the winning argument by the justices said the corporations do not necessarily elect to maximize profit.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
The court ruling on the winning side that said corporations can make these moral judgments said the corporations, for-profit companies, do not necessarily organize just to maximize profit. So the Supreme Court ruling gave permission.
That's interesting.
To so it doesn't mean if you're a CEO of a company and you happen to be a Buddhist that wants to do no harm, Hobby Lobby's decision protects a Buddhist for-profit company from doing harm to the environment or the people that it interacts with. And so now with Citizens United, we got the rights. With Hobby Lobby, we've gotten moral responsibility. And so corporate law, it hasn't been challenged now in court. But if you look at, there was a conservative investment group in 2014 or around then that had challenged Tim Cook's investments in sustainable production. And Tim Cook said basically, if you don't like our sustainability initiatives, take your investment elsewhere. Same thing with CVS. CVS, by removing altered images in beauty products or removing tobacco products, nobody sued their board of directors for not maximizing shareholder profit. But my prediction is if that lawsuit does happen, the Hobby Lobby case will be cited as protection for moral compasses within corporations. And it just hasn't been challenged yet.
All right. So this is one of the things that I have to go back and forth on. Because listen, I'm not anti-capitalist, but I'm also not a rah, capitalist either. I feel like this is a great economic tool engine to generate wealth. But at the same time, there needs to be governors put on it. Just like you have a car we put on the road, it can go 200 miles an hour, or we're putting a governor in it where you can only go 100 because there's no reason for you to go 200 on, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And but balancing what I feel America, one of the great things about America, that freedom that we always talk about. And so to me, I wonder if it also includes the freedom to be what others might consider a jerk. So if you are a Hobby Lobby and you're going to follow the tenets, black and white, be a fundamentalist when it comes to a certain book out there, then okay, we'll come to America, and if you want to open up an all Christian company or an all Muslim company, or then knock yourselves out, because this is America. This is the way you see things. Carve out a little part of of your paradise and knock yourself out. But on the other hand, you want to take that to extremes. Okay, well, what if one of those groups, what they believe is that, well, you raise little girls to be property, and at 12 years old, they get they get married off, sorry. They get sold, married off, whatever that is. But this is our religion. This is the way I see it. Or you cut out the clitoris of a little girl because that's what's in your religion. Mm-hmm. Or and this is a case. This is a case that'll pop up every couple of years, and that is you have a mother and father who have a child that have some cancer. Yeah, and it is very treatable, but they say no based on their religion. Should we go, okay, well, that's your kid. That's your family. This is the way you see the universe. Welcome to America. We're not going to get in the way, because right now we do. We'll step in and talk and say child neglect. We'll take that child and go and make sure that they get the cancer treatment that they need. So I do have there is a back and forth with me on just how free do we make America. Mm-hmm. And then if this is what America's about, then get your hands out of and then I don't want to hear anybody talking about somebody's religious beliefs, but I also don't want to hear anybody else talking about somebody else's sexuality. You come to America, you get a chance to live to a certain degree. I mean, if it starts to affect other people, that's where we have to draw our lines and boundaries. But for the most part, knock yourself out here in America. Or is America and the Constitution a canvas that society is constantly updating the image that is on that canvas? If that makes sense, or if I'm getting a little too,
there's these,
and so it's a constant social experiment. So, I guess so that canvas that allows for that constant. No, we're going to take we as a society, we're decided we're going in this direction a little bit more than we were 100 years ago, or that direction more 100 years ago. Yeah. Or is it just get the government out of the way, get everybody out of the way? You come here and knock yourself out.
Well, yeah, we're in media. You look at billboards; they have extensions. I mean, amendments are exactly what it is. It's an amendment to the document, and we've evolved over the last 200 years. I mean, that's something I think that we're going to keep evolving. And I think a lot of the things when you talk about, genital mutilation, whether it's, male or female, when it comes to...
Is circumcision genital mutilation?
I believe so.
See, there you go.
But it's one of those things. I think we're not there yet. It's becoming a big deal, but it's not yet because we still have all these other issues. I look at... I would drive myself crazy if I worried about everything today. And I have to look at it when I look at the Martin Luther King quote about the arc of society bends towards justice, and I try to take a really long-term look.
Is that his fundamental truth?
Is
it a fundamental truth?
I believe so. Okay. I believe so. That we're that's my truth too, is that I think that. So I try to take a very long-term look at that, and so I focus on the things I can impact or have the greatest impact today on, and I try to be observant and understanding of those things that I cannot impact right away, but knowing that we're headed these directions and try to help. All right. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's...
Gets me closer.
Yeah.
It gets me closer. All right, Vinny, thank you so much. Vinny,
thanks.
Tafuro. You said don't overthink of it. Tafuro.
Yep.
Thank you so much for stopping in today and
Appreciate it.
helping me partner the show. It was a very interesting. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that the Wake.Show should be, because to me, I'm a very curious person by nature. And I'm very curious in different genres. So I know today was very heavy on economics and corporate America and businesses and this and this and this. And then tomorrow could be all about puppies. Who knows? All about boobs.
Puppies are always good.
You can't go wrong with that. Joey, was this a nice, enthralling discussion for you, sir? No, not at all. All right. Well, Vinny, thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. All right. Talk to you soon. This is the Wake.Show. I am Chris Fisher. And let's check some messages before we get out of here. Andrew, you should check out a show on sci-fi called Incorporated. All right, Sci-Fi on Incorporated. John Sweeney Jr. Cords look at my wall for breaking news as Feinstein and Schiff ask Facebook and Twitter to ban all Trump supporters using hashtag release the memo for being Russian bots. They really must be scared of the memo. Okay, you guys are having... This is what I love about this. This is why I also need to make sure that... At some point in the show, I make sure that all these discussions that you guys are having is right in front of me, because has been a couple times that whatever discussion we're having in the room, I turn back to the comments, you guys are having a completely different discussion, and I just want to make sure that we bob and weave in that kind of stuff. I wouldn't bother hating a team that's bad. Masteries is great. I learned all my cuss words sitting with my granddad watching the Braves. Oh, thank you very much. I'd love the T-shirt. Thank you. All right. All right. Now I got my own. I got my own right there. Maybe it'll be better to switch over to this deal. Oh, you know what? Something that we didn't do before you get out. Go sit down. And again, like I said, I'm a horrible host. I say thanks for stopping by, and then all of a sudden, I something pops into my head. You have other ways people can track you down.
Yes.
Because you just gave me this. Are you selling these shirts online as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's corporateempathy.com. But my website where I have everything for my book is laborcage.com. So.
And is it has it got too many big words in it for somebody like me? Or?
I keep my article. I write articles and I keep them at 3-minute reads on Medium. I don't like articles that are more than 4 minutes to read. I break down individual things. I have a program I did last year called Industrial Age Detox that really tried to simplify these things. And
All right.
so,
Once again, track them down at corporateempathy.com.
Yep.
All right, there we go. Now you can
no,
go.
laborcage.com.
I'm sorry, laborcage.com.
Laborcage.com.
Laborcage.com. Laborcage.com. All right, there we go. Thank you very much for coming by. All right, that is Chris Brown, good morning. And did we get to everything? Let's see. Government back to work. Seminole Heights killer. Clydesdale in Tampa. Florida prison deaths on the rise. Man threatens CNN. The Kentucky shooting and Oscar. We got it all. We got it all. I wouldn't bother hating a team that's bad. What? Okay, well then there we go. Thank you so much for coming by. Now you know what's happening. Oh, there we go. Now you know what's happening. Now I leave. You see this little. This is a box and it has a vial in it. And this is my new testosterone therapy that I begin today. I'll be swinging by Dr. McAdam's office on the way home. And he said I did not have to make an appointment. All I got to do is just come by, a little every 2 weeks, and my numbers will be back up to normal. Because as it stands, or why are you doing it? It's because I need to. The range that you're supposed to be in as a man is like between 300 and 1150 or something like that. And mine is at 200. So I am 100 points underneath what I need, or even at the bottom end of that. So I want my numbers to be up in the 500, 600 range. And so we have a little ways to go. We'll see what happens. If tomorrow morning I come in here like a gorilla and I'm tearing stuff off, ripping stuff off the walls, well, then we know I've got too much testosterone coursing through my system. All right. You. Whoops. Did I do that again? Did I turn around and... Were you looking at the back of my head the entire damn time? I bet you were. Sorry about that. So there you go. There's my... that's that. All right. Well, have a great day. Thank you so much for participating. I hope you enjoyed the Wake.Show. Monday through Friday, new time, 11 a to 1 p-ish. Oh, hell, I'm not even close to 1 p. All right. Well, it starts at 11 a and it finishes whenever it finishes. Sound good?